So hello, good day everyone. We are the group 4 and we are here today to discuss about visual arts and its elements. So let me first introduce my group mates. So for group 4, we have Fernandez Marcangelo, Herrera Adli, Lalong Isip Jan Adrian, and I'm Logatok Kate Angela. So before we proceed to our formal discussion, so let us play four picks in one word. So I'm pretty sure you know this game. So for each set, I'll give you 30 seconds to guess the answer. So I'll set the timer with my phone. So just put your answers in the chat box. So okay, let us start. Four picks in one word. Okay, let's go. So you may start answering now. So ready, start the timer. So just chat it away. So we got 20 seconds left. 10 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Alright, time's up. So the right answer is line. So have you guessed the answer? So alright, let us move on to the second set. Right, you may start answering now. Alright, 20 seconds left. 10 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right, time's up. The correct answer is shape. So, alright, let us move to the third one. You may start answering now. 20 seconds left. 10 seconds left. 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. So the correct answer is volume. Alright, let's move to the next one. So you may start answering now. 20 seconds left. 10 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright, time's up. The correct answer is color. So alright, let's move on. You may start answering now. 20 seconds left. 10 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright, time's up. The correct answer is texture. So let's go to the next one. You may start answering now. 20 seconds left. 10 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright, time's up. The correct answer is space. So let's move to the last one. You may start answering now. 20 seconds left. 10 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright, time's up. The correct answer is time and motion. So that's all we have for 4 picks in 1 word. Let us now proceed to the formal discussion of visual arts. The visual arts are art forms that create works that are primarily visual in nature, such as ceramics, drawing, painting, sculpture, printmaking, design, crafts, photography, video, filmmaking, and architecture. So this definition should not be taken too strictly, as many artistic disciplines such as performing arts, conceptual art, and textile arts involve aspects of the visual arts as well as arts of other types. Also included within the visual arts are applied arts such as industrial design, graphic design, fashion design, interior design, and decorative art. So here we got an example of visual art, which is a painting. So it's Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh. So types of visual art. So there are countless forms of art when it comes to visual arts. So there are generally 3 types. So we got decorative, commercial, and fine art. The broader definition of the arts covers everything from painting through theater, music, architecture, and more. However, the visual arts are those artistic creations that we can see, like sculptures or paintings. Across all visual arts, 3 classifications are used to describe an artwork. Whether the artwork is 2 dimensional or 3 dimensional, would always fall under one of these 3 main types. So first we have fine art. So fine art is a style of art that is developed primarily to be aesthetically beautiful. So this definition distinguishes and elevates fine art above those decorative and commercial arts which also serve some practical function. So the fine arts are traditionally limited to 3 visual arts which are painting, sculpture, and architecture. However, broader interpretations of the fine visual arts would expand to include drawing. So high art allows for the full expression and display of the artist's imagination, unrestricted by any commercial or practical considerations such as functionality. So the term fine arts was used for Western art from the Renaissance periods onwards to distinguish certain art forms from the emerging forms of commercial design or works of the craftspeople. While many older or classical art pieces would be considered fine art, modern and contemporary art could also fall into this category. From the 1800s, a new class of fine artists emerged within Impressionism, Expressionism, and other modern art genres. So these genres include well-known artists such as Pablo Picasso, Vincent van Gogh, Jackson Pollock, Claude Monet, and Umberto Boccioni. So what distinguishes this art as fine is not a comment on the artwork's quality in question. Instead, the definition relates to the method and the purity of the discipline. So other visual forms of art can be of high quality without being classified as fine art. So second, we got decorative. So decorative arts are often overlooked as art forms because they are both functional and beautiful to look at. So decorative arts may be used interchangeably with crafts. So the design and manufacture are both beautiful and functional. The decorative arts include objects made for the interiors of buildings and interior design but do not usually include architecture. So the decorative arts can include everyday items but are distinct from the mass-produced versions of these items. To be considered a decorative art, an object should usually be handmade by the specialized craftsman or craftswoman. So common mediums of decorative art include ceramics, glassware, woodwork, textile, enamel work, and metal work. So each of these mediums can consist of multiple subcategories. For example, the textile medium includes everything from fashion design to wall tapestry, basketry, embroidery, and interior fabrics. The decorative arts can be found in cultures all around the world. Some of the most renowned decorative artists include textile designer William Morris, jewelry and ceramic maker Peter Carl Faberg, the creator of the infamous Faberg eggs, Decorative artists are often unknown compared to their counterparts in painting or sculpture. Still, their work is just as important in telling the history and stories of cultures past and present. So three, we got commercial. So commercial art, like decorative arts, can be both functional and beautiful. So commercial art is a creative service which is created for commercial purposes such as advertising. Commercial art is used to promote the sale and interest of services, products, and ideas. Commercial arts can include graphic design, photography, illustration, animation, printmaking, television, fashion design, visual effects, industrial design, and motion graphics. Brands and businesses will commission commercial art to communicate something specific to an audience. So, commercial art is commonly seen in mediums such as magazines, websites, apps, television, store displays, and product packaging. So this art form is all around us. Commercial artists are often responsible for the visuals we see every day, from logos to billboards, TV advertisements, and more. So it's an art that's mass produced and designed to appeal to broad audiences. Commercial art is often seen in new forms of media, but it has in fact been around for centuries to promote products. So this art form is employed not just by brands and businesses, but as a form of communication for governments and the military. So famous war recruitment posters, government propaganda, and even public work projects were all designed by commercial artists. So London's iconic tube logo, Coca-Cola's early posters, and Andy Warhol's Campbell Soup's posters are all fantastic examples of commercial art. Many innovative artists who became popular during the Art Nouveau, Art Deco, and pop art movements were commercial artists. So famous commercial artists include Andy Warhol, Norman Rockwell, Alphonse Mucha, Takashi Murakami, and Salvador Dali. So contemporary artists like Takashi Murakami blur the lines further by producing fine art that uses the styles and motifs of low commercial arts like anime. So Murakami exhibits and creates both fine art and mass-produced commercial art, often in collaboration with brands like Louis Vuitton and performers such as Kanye West and Billie Eilish. So let us now proceed to the visual elements. So the visual elements. The visual elements are line, shape, value, color, texture, space, and time and motion. So they are the building blocks of composition in art. So when we analyze any drawing, painting, sculpture, or design, so we examine these component parts to see how they combine to create the overall effect of the artwork. So just why is visual elements important to understand? So understanding the visual elements of art is of key importance to see like an artist. So rather than looking at an object as it represents, so you will learn to see that object as an arrangement of different visual elements such as shape, texture, colors, and lines, etc. So if you do not learn to see the world in terms of visual elements, then you will struggle to let go of your ideas about what objects are supposed to look like. So this may influence your art, usually not for the better. So student can who can identify the elements and evaluate their role in the composition of artwork will be able to understand an artist's choice. So they will be equipped to address whether the work of art is successful and why. So just take a look at this painting by Pablo Picasso, for example. So which is entitled Jacinta Salvado as Harley Quinn. So as you can see, if you do not understand visual elements, so you won't understand how come that this other side of the painting is with colors while this other one is just more on black and white. So understanding visual elements will help us see this painting in a lot more detail rather than just focusing, for example, his facial expression, like why does he look so sad and stuff. So understanding visual elements, you will learn to look at a work of art through the artist's eye. So the visual elements have a relationship to one another. So most images begin their life as line drawings. Line cross over one another to form shapes. Shapes can be filled with tone and color or repeated to create pattern. So a shape may be rendered with a rough surface to create a texture. A shape may be projected into three dimensions to create form. So each of the elements may also be used individually to stress out their own particular character in an artwork. So different elements can express qualities such as movement and rhythm, so space and depth, growth and structure, harmony and contrast, noise and calm, and a wide range of emotions that make up the subjects of a great art.
Line is a basic and perhaps most essential element of art. Line is the shortest distance between two points and is the thing created by the connection of these points. It is the first and most versatile of the visual elements of art. So, basically speaking, an art wouldn't exist without any lines. Yun na lang po yung pinaka ultimatum na explanation doon. Baga, kahit ano pong gawin nating arts, whether it is sculpture, whether it is sketch, whether it is a painting, hindi po mag-exist. Art wouldn't have a form without any lines. Yan po yan. Tapos, there are different types of line. Straight, curved, ang una po natin, straight, curved, vertical, horizontal, diagonal, zigzag, wavy, and spiral. So, sa horizontal, itong tatlong nauna. Itong horizontal, vertical, and diagonal lines, they are often used sa shadings. Yung broken lines naman, pwede naman natin siyang gamitin sa visualization. For example, sa graphs, they are sometimes using broken lines to indicate yung mga yung mga nakaraang data na collected compared dun sa present na ang ay straight line lang siya, yung solid line. So sa zigzag, wavy, curved, and spiral, madalas natin siya nakikita sa mga yung kagaya nun sa mga katutubo natin yung sa mga patterns ng ng mga ginagawang basket. Kadalasan zigzag, wavy, curve, spiral, ganon sila, pa rin siya. Yun ay pasok sa different kinds of line. Kita nyo naman, ang ganda na kanilang mga products na nagagawa. So, actual, implied, and psychological lines. Actual lines are those that are physically present in a work of art. They are concrete, they have length, width, and other describable characteristics. So, makikita natin sa ating figure na nakapost sa PowerPoint, ito sa galleon. Ito ay isang galleon. Kitang-kita natin na kung ano yung ini-indicate, kung ano yung form and shape ng isang galleon, ay makikita natin through these lines. Lines pa lang po siya. Ganda. Implied line, by contrast, refers to the sense of line created by the perceptual tendency to connect a series of 2 points. Gaya nito. So makikita natin sa figure natin dito na implied lines are yung ginagamit rin siya pang yung parang sa yung nagkita na ba kayo ng t-shirt na yung ang tatakay pabilog na ginamitan ng jugos. Yun, maihawig natin siya dito sa implied line. To the sense of line created with the specific tendency to connect a series of points. Tapos, ang sunod po natin dyan is psychological yan. Suggests a conceptual connection and an invisible linear path between among elements of our characters in a composition. Gaya nito, yung makikita natin sa figure, psychological line in Emily Marie Osborne's Nameless and Friendless. Makikita natin na yung dalawa, yung linya na yung line of sight, yung dalawang tao is magka-inline. Samantalang yung sa nanay, nakatingin siya sa baba. Yung sa babae. Tingin siya sa baba. Yung psychological line. Kumbaga, they have a connection. Yung dalawang characters na nakikita natin sa painting. That's one of the examples of psychological line. Outline and contour line. An outline is an actual line, a concrete mark that defines a boundary or outer edge of an object or a figure. A contour line is not an actual line but an edge that is perceived where a three-dimensional form curves away from the viewer. So, So, an outline is, for example, ay yung sa makikita natin dito sa ano. Ang outline ay makikita natin sa kanya na kita-kita mo yung lines niya. Kita-kita mo yung boundary nung sa mukha, kita-kita mo yung kung hanggang saan lang siya. It is represented by a line. Meanwhile, in contour line, they are covered in shade. Shaded siya, tinan mo. Hindi mo makikita yung solid line. Ang makikita mo lang sa kanya is may boundary siya, pero hindi siya kasing solid nito. Para siyang 3D representation ng isang line. Kumbaga, it is not solid but shaded. Yun lamang po.
Shape. Shape in a two-dimensional work of art is a flat area created when two ends of line are connected and an area is enclosed. Shape can also describe an area of composition that is created by other shapes surrounding it. Sabi dito, shape is a two-dimensional work of art. Pero, ano nga ba pag sinabi nating two-dimensional work of art? Pag sinabi nating two-dimensional work of art, it refers to the flat surface artwork na merong dalawang dimension which is length and width. Sabi pa dito, masasabi natin na shape ang isang bagay kung they are enclosed in line. Hindi natin masasabing shape ang ating drawing or ating painting if hindi siya enclosed or yung end niya is hindi connected sa isa't isa. So, dito sa next, meron tayong types of shapes. Meron tayong rectilinear, curvilinear, amorphous shapes. Yan. Ang rectilinear is a shape with straight edges and angular corners. Ang rectilinear is, ang example niya is triangle, square, at saka rectangle. Marami pang iba, mga rhombus, yan. Mayroon kasi silang straight edges and angular corner. Matatawag nating rectilinear ang isang shape if meron siyang straight edges and angular corner. Ang sunod naman is curvilinear. Shape with curving edges are described as curvilinear. Dito naman sa curvilinear, ang example naman nito is circle and oval. Kasi wala siyang mga straight edges and angular corners. Puro curving lang ang kanyang curving edges lang siya. Parang dire-diretso lang yung line niya hanggang magtagpo yung dalawang line. So, sunod naman is amorphous shapes. Amorphous shapes are essential implied shapes. They are visually speaking vague. They are interprets them as shape even though they have no actual outer edges. Ang ibig sabihin pala nung vague, sabi sa Google, is unclear character or meaning. Ibig sabihin, sabi dito naman, ang amorphous shapes is visually speaking. Makikita natin dito sa kabila, parang ang gulo ng painting, pero pag tiningnan mo siya ng mabuti, may makikita kang mga different shape. Parang dito sa taas, makikita mo yung parang mukha ng tao. Tapos sa gitna, may makikita kang triangle. Sa medyo gilid ng konti, sa kanan, may heart naman doon. Yun yung mga tinatawag na amorphous shapes. Nakikita na, ini-interpret ng ating mata. Sabi kasi is unclear character or meaning. Ibig sabihin is kahit anong gawin mo dyan, iwisik-wisikan mo lang or dampi-dampian mo lang ng paintbrush, meron niyang makrecreate at makrecreate na shape. Even though na hindi ka guhit talaga ng shape, meron magagawa dyan kasi meron tayong sinatawag na amorphous shapes kasi depende sa viewer mo kung paano nila i-interpret yung iyong painting. So, next is meron tayong organic shapes. Organic shapes are derived from those found in nature, the world of living things. Kikita natin dito sa kabila, ang organic shape is from nature. Makikita natin sa nature, makikita natin siya yung shape ng dahon, shape ng bato. Kasi ang bato naman hindi siya perfect circle, hindi siya perfect oval. Meron siyang shape na kanya talaga. Kita natin flower, ano pa itong isa, ink splatters. Yan. Tapos meron din tayong abstract shapes. Abstract shapes are radical alteration of visible reality, simplification, exaggerations, or transmutations that are sometimes bear little resemblance to the original entities from which they are derived. Ang magandang example dito is icon and symbols. Kasi sa icon, makikita natin pag camera ang nakalagay dun sa icon, automatic na pang picture, pang video, o kaya naman pag nakalagay yung gear, ibig sabihin nun ay settings. Pag sa symbol naman, pag nakalagay sa bote ay bungo, agad nating ma-interpret yun na poison or kaya ay danger, parang masama siya sa tao kasi nga may bungo. O kaya ay ang kidlat, pwede siyang high voltage or danger. Sunod naman is geometric shapes. Geometric shapes are the type implies are related to concepts in geometry such as rectangle, cubes, triangles, pyramids, circles, and spheres. Ang geometric shape is yung mga basic nating shape. Nabanggit naman na doon yung ating mga example, which is rectangle, cubes, triangles, pyramids, circles, and spheres. Parang ang geometric shape is figures that uses points, line, segment, circle, at curve. Para mas malinaw. Gumagamit siya ng line, segment, at saka curve.
So let us now move on to value. So value refers to the relative degree of lightness or darkness of a surface or a color. So the value of a color is determined by the amount of light reflected by the color. So it describes the blacks and whites and grays in works of art, their presence, absence, and relationship to one another. So take a look at the painting of the girl with pearl earrings. So her back is darker than her face, which gives the impression of a shadow. So value contrast refers to the degrees of difference between shades of gray. So take a look at photos A, B, and C. So which one of them is easier to read? So photo A has a different value contrast compared to photos B and C. So photo A has a low value contrast as it has no pure whites or blacks and a range of middle tones, while photos B and C have high value contrast as it consists of extremely bright and dark areas which makes it easier to read. So value pattern describes the variation in light and dark within a work of art and the ways in which they are arranged within a composition. So the term value pattern applies to full color works as well as works in black and white. So value patterns can be low contrast or high contrast. So low contrast value patterns can tend toward the dark or light ends of a value scale. So let us now move on to the fourth visual element, which is color. So color is the most complex element of art to define. So scientifically speaking, color is the thing that the human eye and brain perceive that is associated with descriptive words like red or blue or yellow. So in the visual arts, color theory is the body of knowledge for artists that describes and categorizes color, its properties, behavior, and effects. So color is the visual element that has the strongest effect on our emotions. So we can use color to create the mood or the atmosphere of an artwork. So take a look at this painting or picture on the left side. So it's entitled Autumn Landscape with Boats by Vasily Kandinsky. So in this picture or in this painting, Kandinsky depicted the evening pier with boats attached to it and the shore in bright lights against the sunset, so almost like night. So its vibrant colors gives the painting a festive, happy, and hopeful atmosphere. So this just tells that how color affects the overall mood or the atmosphere of a painting or any art. So let us discuss the perceptual properties of a color. So the three key perceptual properties of color are hue, value, and intensity. So hue simply defined, hue is a pure, unadulterated color as it appears on the color wheel. So take a look at the photo on the left. So this one. So our perception of hue is connected to the eye's sensitivity to the specific parts of the visible spectrum, so such as red, yellow, blue, and green. So sometimes referred to as unique hues. Value refers to the lightness or darkness of a hue, its degree of luminosity. The value of the hue can be altered by adding black or white to that hue. In addition, the addition of black results in shades of that hue, while adding white produces tints of that hue. So mixing gray with a color can create a variety of tones. Maroon or burgundy are shades of red, while pink is a tint of red. So whereas hues are few in number, tints and shades of hues are numerous. So the human eye can perceive at least 40 tints and shades of any one color. So while intensity and saturation are synonymous terms that describes the brightness or dullness of a color. So a color is most intense or most saturated when it's most pure, like the color that is perceived when the beam of light is refracted through the prism, or the color of a pure pigment that has not been mixed with black or white. When colors are mixed with black or white or their complement their intensity is affected as is their value. Colors can have similar values but different intensities, different degrees of brightness. So, in a nutshell, ano yung pinagkaiba nung tatlo? So, yung hue, ito na yung mismong nasa color wheel. Kung ano yung pinaka-perception natin nung mga kulay, katulad na lang nung mismong blue, green, yellow. Yun na yung hue. Yung mga walang kahalo. While yung value, ito naman yung kung gaano kaliwanag. So, dito na nagmumula yung mga light blue, dark blue. Ito na yun, yung value kasi hinahalo yung white or black para mapaliwanag o mapadilim yung kulay. Ito na yung value. So, unlike sa hue, na bilang lang talaga yung kulay, yung mga walang kahalong kulay na hue, yung value, pwede tayong marami kasi yung sa value, dito tayo nakakaproduce ng mga tints or shades. Kaya nga dyan nanggagaling yung katulad ng sabi ko, mga light, mga light yellow, dark yellow, yun na yun. Sa value nanggagaling yung kaya marami tayong nakukuhang kulay sa galing sa value. While yung saturation naman, ito yung kung gaano katingkad yung kulay. Kaya may tinatawag tayong saturated. Ano ba yung saturated? Yung saturated, kung gaano kalapit yung kulay dun sa original na kulay, katulad nung sa hue, halimbawa kung gaano kalapit yung red sa red, halimbawa matingkad na red. So, yun na yung red na talaga yun. Pero kung babawasan mo yung kanyang saturation, so magpo-fall siya somewhere between this. So, magmumukha na siyang mga kulay palapit na siya sa scale ng gray. Pagbabawasan mo yung saturation mo, yung kung gaano katingkad yung kulay. So, we also have very cool and warm colors. So, yung cool and warm colors, ito yung mga kulay na ina-associate natin sa temperature. So, kapag warm colors, ito yung mga kulay na ina-associate natin kapag mainit, ito sa init mismo. So, ano ba yung mga naiisip natin ano ba naiisip natin mga kulay kapag mainit? Di ba, mga naiisip natin kulay mga yellow-orange, tas mga red. Kasi yun yung kulay ng apoy. So, yun yung ina-associate natin kapag naiisip natin yung mga warm colors. While yung mga cool colors naman, ito yung mga ina-associate natin sa lamig. Ano ba yung mga naisip natin kulay pag malamig? Ito yung mga blue. Nakatad yung blue, violet, green. Kasi ito yung mga ina-associate natin sa yellow o sa tubig. At kinukonsider natin ang cool colors ay yung itong mga kulay na to. Dahil ito yung mga naisip natin kapag malamig. So, and we also have our neutral colors which is just white, gray, and black. So we also have our color scheme. So artists use color instinctively or intuitively, but at times they can also be quite conscious of the science and theory of the color in their arrangement of color in a composition. So planned combination of color are referred to as color schemes. So in color scheme, so we have monochromatic, analogous, and complementary. So monochromatic includes a range of tints and shades in a single color, while analogous colors are adjacent on the color wheel and are more similar to each other than the colors elsewhere in the spectrum, while complementary color schemes are based on colors that are across from one another on the color wheel, so colors that tag equally at the eye. So these schemes are very dynamic and can be used to great effect. So, ano ba yung pinagkaiba ng monochromatic, analogous, at complementary? So, monochromatic, ito lang yung shades of a single color. So, for example, tingnan nyo din sa picture on the right. So, ang monochromatic, gumagamit lang siya ng isang kulay. Katulad ito, tingnan nyo, green lang yung ginamit niya. So, light green, papunta sa dark green. So, isang kulay lang yan under ng green. Wala analogous color scheme. Ito naman yung magkakatabi lang sa color wheel. Katulad dito, dark blue or indigo, blue, tapos green. So, sila lang yung magkakatabi dito. Yun yung analogous color scheme. While complementary scheme, ito naman yung magkakalayo sa color wheel para mag-create ng sense of contrast. Yung magtatag sa mata talaga. Ano, example ito, yung red at green, di ba ito yung ginagamit pag Christmas? So, yung red at green ay considered as complementary color scheme.
So, dako naman tayo sa texture. Texture is a surface character of materials as experienced by senses of touch and sight. Texture can be inherent in the materials that an artist chooses or can be created through the manipulation of surfaces. And it can also be implied in a work of art through illusionistic rendering of a physical aspect of material. In simple explanation, ang texture is a hardness and softness ng image. Pwedeng visually or physically. Pwede mo siya kasing pag physically, makikita mo talaga yung roughness ng isang art or ng softness ng isang art pag hinawakan mo ito. O kaya pag visual naman, parang binivisualize lang ng mata mo na rough ito. Pero minsan kasi merong artist na gumagawa ng hyperrealistic na mga hollow blocks na painting or mga drawing. Doon natin makikita pag visual sa visual kung rough or soft yung kanyang ginawang art. Sabi dito, actual texture is actually related to the materials are used to create work. Visual texture is illusion of an actual texture. Yun na nga. Parang yung sinabi ko kanina, yung actual texture is nahahawakan mo talaga mismo. Kung pwede siyang sa kahoy, kinerve siya sa kahoy, mahahawakan mo siya na rough ito. Pag sa naman, visual, kikita natin na rough yung isang bagay pag mga nakadrawing is kahoy, hollow blocks, mga yan. Or pag softness naman, makikita natin yung kunwari, ang nakapinta ay papel. Yan. Pwede nating masabing softness yon or kaya merong smooth surface siyang drawing. Pwede nating ma-visualize yun ng smooth.
Space. Space describes the area around or within the components of a work of art. What Frank Lloyd Wright called the breadth of art, space can be thought as of the distance or area between, around, above, or below or within things. In the visual arts, we speak of open and closed space. Shallow two-dimensional space, the actual three-dimensional space in which a piece exists, and the illusion of three-dimensional space on two-dimensional surfaces. Take a look at the photo on the right. In one Greece collage, the Battle of Banyuls, the artist used overlapping, which is one of the uses of space to reinforce the work's two-dimensionality. The effect is not so much as of one object in front or behind another on the table, but of compressed space, flatness. We'll discuss more of the uses of space later on. The area around the primary object in a work of or the background that surrounds the subject art is known as negative space. While the space occupied by the primary object is known as positive space. Positive space refers to the subject or areas of interest in an artwork, such as person, space, or figure in a portrait, the object in a still painting, or the trees in a landscape painting. The relationship of positive to negative space can greatly affect the impact of a work of art. In the drawing entitled He Can No Longer at the Age of 98 by Francisco C. de Goya y Lucientes, the man and his shadow occupy the positive space, while the white space surrounding him is negative space. The disproportionate amount of negative space accentuates the figure's vulnerability and isolation. Actual space refers to the dimension in which we live and move. The illusion of space is the suggestion of three dimensions on a two-dimensional surface. Another way of saying this is that the illusion of depth is the suggestion of distance in a picture. The illusionistic space of a two-dimensional composition is sometimes called its implied space or pictorial space. It is created by the artist using devices or techniques to approximate the way things would be seen by the human eye in a actual space. They include relative size based on the observation that the nearby objects appear larger to the eye than do objects in the distance. Overlapping transparency, vertical positioning, atmospheric perspectives, linear perspective, and other more complicated versions of perspective. We also have uses of space. Overlapping. Overlapping occurs when the objects that are closer to the viewer prevent the view of objects that are behind them. To suggest space, artists incorporate such real-world observation. Overlapping is an especially useful device if there is not much actual space between the objects or figures being portrayed. Relative size. The farther objects are far from us, the smaller they appear to the eye. One of the ways then that artists suggest space is to vary the size of object within it. Things that are supposed to be closer to the viewer will be sized larger than the things that are to be perceived as farther away. Location. Artists use location, also known as vertical positioning, in their composition as a strategy to signify depth. The artist relies on the viewer's tendency to read things at the top of the composition as farther away than things at the bottom, based on the way that reality is perceived. The use of word signify is purposeful because location does not really create an illusion of space in the same way the other device do. Atmospheric perspective. Perspective, also known as aerial perspective, is a technique for illustrating depth that incorporates such devices as texture gradient, brightness gradient, color saturation, and interplay of warm and cool colors. It refers to the distinct quality of distant objects the character of which is affected by the atmosphere that stands between them and the viewer. 1 point perspective is a system that enables the artist to project the three-dimensional world onto a two-dimensional surface by accurately representing the size of object relative to the depth of the receding space. Linear perspective. Linear perspective refers to the two formal system developed by artists to portray three-dimensional objects in two-dimensional space. The goal is to provide the viewer with the same impression of a relative size, position, or distance that would be created by viewing the objects from a particular point, called a vantage point. As the object recedes from the viewer, they diminish in size and eventually become so small that they vanish. The point at which they vanish is called the vanishing point. Imagine that you are standing between the two rails of a railroad track and looking toward the horizon, or as far into the distance that you can possibly can. The rail, the rails will appear to converge the closer they get to the horizon, until they look as if they come together. That single point at which they seem to touch is a vanishing point on the horizon line. This phenomenon is called capture in a photograph of a performance piece by William Pope L. titled Training Crawl. Lewiston M. Me. Time and motion. Time and motion in art are connected. Motion occurs over time and distance. Motion can be actual or implied. Time in art is expressed as actual, implied, linear, and circular. Actual time in art consists of works of art that take up certain amounts of time, such as media, while implied time in a art consists of an illusion that time has passed or a specific captured moment. Linear time in a progression of time that is shown in art such as blocks or of art that fell a story like comic book. Digital clocks and timelines also represent linear time. And circular time shows a cycle or repeating pattern such as an analog clock and a labyrinth. Motion in art can be where the art actually moves in a kinetic way or when art shows that an object is moving. Movement in art is expressed with blurry images, placements of objects, and different use of lines. There can be diagonal, gestural, and directional lines that imply an object is moving or has moved. An object that is larger appears closer can imply that it moved faster than an object that is smaller and appears further away. Artists work with motion as they would any other element in creating a work of art. From fountain in which the movement of water is intrinsic to the design, to shape-shifting kinetic sculptures whose composition are transformed by even the slightest breeze. Artists have been intrigued by the potential of motion to convert a static image into an active one. When artists uses techniques successfully to suggest the motion is in the process of occurring, they achieve illusion of motion. These techniques include multiplication of images or fragments, blurred lines, and optical sensations.